Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Dr. John McClain, and in this series, I will be looking at short answers to tough questions. This will be number 6, I believe. And the question today is, why, God, did you love Jacob and hate Esau? This seems kind of arbitrary and unfair maybe to Esau. Was Esau really that much more evil than Jacob? Well, remember that this statement comes out of Malachi 1:1 through 5. The oracle of the word of the Lord to Israel through Malachi. And the children of Israel throughout Malachi are kind of answering question, God, do you love us? What have you done for us lately? Why should we worship you and serve you? What have you done for us lately? And Malachi says, God says through Malachi, I have loved you, says the Lord. But you say, how have you loved us? The answer was not Esau, Jacob's brother. Esau was the older brother. Esau should have gotten the inheritance, declares the Lord. Yet I have loved Jacob. And yet Jacob swindled and tricked Esau out of the inheritance and the birthright and everything. Yet I have loved Jacob, but I have hated Esau. And I have made his mountains a desolation and appointed his inheritance for the jackals of the wilderness, the most uninhabited, unlivable area. And we need to understand here again that it's not that Jacob was super lovable and Esau was super hateable. This we're going to see is simply in God's elective choice. It wasn't based on who they were as individuals. Verse 4, he goes on, though Edom says, and we need to understand that the Edomites are descendants of Esau, and they opposed Israel and opposed them. And so we're talking, 1,000 years later, after the Exodus, and 1,400 years certainly after the patriarchal line. He says, though Edom says, we have been beaten down, but we will return and build up the ruins. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the Lord of the army and the power. They may build, but I will tear down, and men will call them the wicked territory, and the people toward whom the God is indignant forever. Your eyes will see this, and you will say, the Lord be magnified beyond the border of Israel. God chose Jacob. He hated Esau, and I don't think we can take anything away from this word hated. Hated is hated. It doesn't mean less, love less. It doesn't mean doesn't fully like. Hated, judged. And why? Because in the course of history, Esau did everything to oppose God's will, God's way. And this is coming all the way down again to the book of Malachi in about 400 BC, after the 1445 Exodus, after the 1800 entrance into Egyptian bondage, after the 20 to 2200 period of the patriarchs. And throughout that lineage, there was this arrogance against God that we're not going to obey you no matter what you do to us. We're going to rebel and we're going to rebuild. And so God says, I am going to magnify myself beyond the border of Israel. People will understand it's because of your wickedness. And then again, as we saw briefly in one of the earlier questions of this series on short answers to tough questions, Paul addresses the issue of Jacob and Esau, and it's all based upon what God said to Moses. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy. I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So it does not depend on the man who wills or the man who runs, but on God who has mercy. Now, we can say, you know what? Esau chose to run away from God. Esau chose to rebel against God. But Jacob was no Old Testament sweet saint. And he rebelled and he deceived. And it really comes down to this. God decided in his sovereign will, which was counseled and concluded in eternity past. And we have to look at the entire character of God, his love, his righteousness, his justice, his holiness, his goodness, and know and trust until we meet him face to face that God has made the right, the best, the holy, the perfect decisions.